The UPMC sports medicine experts in Central PA are here to help keep you in the game and improve your quality of life, no matter your age or activity level. Visit upmc.com/Central PA SportsMed to learn more.
Okay, welcome to another fantastic 30-minute stretch known as the PA High School Football Report podcast. It's not currently raining, Dan, which is nice considering all the drippiness. I just made that word up. We've been receiving lately. Colleague Dan Sostek is on the other end. What's up, partner?
Not much. Got my grocery shop. I don't even know why I grocery shop this time of year because we're on the road like 90% of it. It started next week. I feel like we're driving around town pretty much every day for playoffs and everything, and either playoffs or free meals at various banquets. So I don't know why you just spent $120 at Giant, but I did. So,
so Giant is your grocery chain of choice.
I kind of rotate. I feel like I get bored by one place, but I've kind of settled that. Everyone does the Trader Joe's thing for a while, but at some point, Trader Joe's I think has the best quality of food in terms of the pure food, but sometimes you just need stuff that Trader Joe's doesn't have, and Giant also is big. Giant's basically a Walmart at this point too, with how much other stuff they have. So I just kind of go to Giant.
I find the packaging at Trader Joe's just too neat.
Yeah,
it's too tidy for me. Like it's built for a young 26-year-old couple.
Yeah,
just starting their journey together. You know what I mean?
They've got good frozen. They've got the best frozen food, though. Their
frozen section is excellent. Yes, I will agree with you on that. Yeah. And you get to try different things.
Yeah, but Giant's an old reliable. You just know you can just go get a rotisserie chicken at the front desk.
Yes. Yeah, I tried Trader Joe. I never heard of this fish. It was a sway.
Yeah, they always have some sort of food you've never heard of in your life, and it was
interesting. A little bit like flounder, but it was all right. Gave it a shot anyway.
Yeah,
all right.
You'll be able to catch them on your boat.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, hopefully I'll be able to catch them.
Yeah,
for sure. My goal this year is like a 50-pound tuna.
I think you got it. Yeah,
so I'll get out there in the canyons out there, 40 miles out, just bobbing around.
Yeah,
we'll be all right. We'll make it work. All right, dude. Hey, listen, it's championship season, obviously, in spring sports. May brings that to us, but we've got a trio of interesting football games to talk about this week. And for the next 25 or so minutes, we're going to focus on the annual Pennsylvania State Football Coaches Association. Whew, that's a big one. Run East-West All-Star games. That's certainly a mouthful, dude. The East-West games, as you know, the PSFCA about, let's say, 4 years ago, can't really pinpoint it. They decided to add a small school version of the East-West Showcase because mainly the majority of roster space for the original East-West game, which included all classifications, was basically dominated by players who were from larger schools and on the fringe of basically becoming Big 33 players.
Yeah,
it was sort of that next tier, the guys who didn't just miss the cut for Big 33. Of course, they only named 38 of those guys now, which why we don't call it the Big 38, not sure. But anyway,
33 is a nice ring to it.
It's a nice round number, right? Everybody knows it as a Big 33. So thus the addition of seniors, players now who operated for teams from Class 1A through 3A. That's the small school East-West version. The large school game, of course, is for players who played 4A to 6A. Both East-West games are slated for Sunday, May 19th at Cumberland Valley's Chapman Field, which, of course, is the new home of the Big 33. That classic will be a week later on the 26th. But on the surface, Dan, your overview and maybe the first thing that kind of pops out of you, let's start with the small school version of East-West. Game begins at noon. Let's talk a little bit about that one and what sort of jumps out at you checking out the rosters.
I think the first thing that jumps out to me is gonna have a lot of steel high rollers. I know
they're band back together.
Yeah, I know. Well, the thing is, I'm pretty sure Steel High is doing a ring ceremony on Sunday as well to honor their championship team, which is interesting because they're going to be missing a lot of players from that if if they don't time this, probably will be able to play in both of it. But I mean, you've got some real key pieces from that Rollers team. I think 6 total players. You got Rel Caesar and Cam Chisholm, wide receiver. Then you've got Andrew Irby playing offensive line again. Eugene Green and Amari Williams, and Jayon Perry, one of our favorites. So you got, I mean, that group, we've talked about it plenty of times, but that's as winning of a group as you're ever going to find in the state of Pennsylvania in terms of a group of kids that contributed to 3 state titles and were contributors for all 3 of them. Almost all of those kids were, to various degrees, but guys like Jayon Perry, Andrew Irby were just huge parts of all 3 championships. And it's cool to see them get one final all-star game. Because I think a couple of them, you kind of wonder why a guy like Andrew is in the East-West game and not the Big 33. But unless I'm mistaken, but I think he's just East-West, right? No Big 33.
Yeah, he's just,
yeah. So you I guess this is why you kind of add that small school aspect, because you don't want a guy like Andrew Irby getting overlooked for this stuff because he's had such a fantastic career. And then Jayon Perry too, like I said, we've written about him a bunch, and Andrew Irby Senior kind of talked to me about it before the state championship game, how if that kid was a little bit more of a self-marketer or talked a little bit more about himself, it was a little, some kids can almost be a little, they could afford to be a little more selfish, a little more boisterous, but you don't hear as much today as you used to. But I feel like Jayon Perry's as good a football player as there is in the States. It might be a little undersized, but I'm glad we get to see him play football one more time, because that kid is a damn football player.
Yeah, it definitely is too. Yeah, it's interesting to me too. Like, Cam obviously is going to play here as a wideout.
Yeah.
He's certainly talented as a wideout, but I think I'd almost want to see him on defense more.
Yeah.
Just because of the chaos he sort of brought to that position. But you do have Eugene Green at the end, and of course Amari Williams at linebacker too. I thought, I don't know how deep, and again, 6 rollers on a 33-man roster is pretty impressive. Like I said, the trigger man and lead singer is going to play a week later in the Big 33. That's Alex Irby, who set multiple state records in his career.
Yeah.
But that was sort of interesting to me that Cam Chisholm is going to be at wideout, because you do have a guy like Rel Caesar also at wideout, who's been absolutely tremendous. And for a while we were talking about him being our player of the year. It just became more and more difficult to overlook what Alex Irby was doing week in and week out. And I got a chance to see him and obviously Hayden Johnson at Big 33 practice 2 weeks ago. And yeah, they're in pretty good hands. That offense is in pretty good hands. But yeah, I really like this group. I thought even a guy like Tavon LeGrand would be worthy of a spot here in this part. I think he's one of the most underrated linebackers, I think, that we've seen in the past, 10, 15 years as far as production. And it all is because look at the 6 guys we just named.
Yeah, you can't. It's almost at some point you can't have.
You almost have to stop.
You can't have a fifth of the team being steel high.
That's right. Like you have to stop. You're just like, well, this guy can come, this guy can come. I mean, because they're certainly we're worthy of playing in this game. But yeah, getting the band back together is going to be pretty cool. I don't know. I would hope they would have done the ring ceremony a few hours before, or after this, maybe. But they're going to be a lot of the Steelton guys will show up to support their guys. We should get some good walk-in traffic from. And
Steelton. I also really like the running back group on the East team too. Riker Jones has been a guy I've seen. I think I've covered 3 or 4 Y missing games the last 2 years, and that's a kid that has always it's always interesting covering a team like Y missing, because you kind of wonder how much is scheme versus how much is the players, making the plays, because they just run that funky offense. It's impossible to deal with those big guys up front. But Riker Jones is he is just a physical, tough to tackle linebacker that it's kind of like the chicken or the egg thing, where who makes it? Is it the scheme? Is it the running back? But I don't think every running back can do what he does. for that Y missing football team. And then you have Dalton Clymer, who was just awesome this year for getting Northwest Lehigh all the way to the state championship game.
Yeah.
I think I don't know, I forget exactly how many yards he had, but he had a lot of that team's total yardage.
He had a ton, and the other guy is action back from Williams Valley, and he's a guy too. I think we sort of lost the relationship with Williams Valley. Certainly that changed when the Vikings shipped off to the Schuylkill League and the Tri Valley eventually disbanded. Of course, I was happy we got 6 of them, 6 teams to come to absorb into the Mid Penn because it's really fun football to watch, and those kids really go after it. This kid had 3,000 rushing yards this year as an all-state kid. I mean, it was really ridiculous what he was doing.
But he's playing safety in this game, right?
He's playing safety in this game, yes. And so I have my fingers crossed they'll give him the rock a few times on offense.
Yeah,
hopefully. But he's such a competitive kid, such a freak athlete. And again, when you have 7,000 rushing yards in your career at Williams Valley, I mean that's doing work.
Yeah.
So I would hope the coaching staff there for the East will give him the rock a little bit. But yeah, he's a guy I want to see. Clymer, you mentioned, he's on my list, and because it didn't end well for the boys. It's still high, but it was a tremendous senior year for him. And there's a couple of guys there actually that we looked at. We got to see in December. That we want to see again. So yeah, anybody else that sticks out that you're really interested in seeing?
Well, on the East team, I think we've kind of been through a lot of them, but shifting over to the West a little bit. Evan McCracken's been a running back that's just been a lot of fun to watch out of Richland throughout his career. He's just a really dynamic football player. I've heard I haven't dug into the film, but I've heard good things about Rico Steele, the offensive lineman for West Mifflin. I've heard he's a guy that is going to get looks kind of at the higher D1 levels and stuff like that. But yeah, it's always funny looking going to the East and West, and when you go to these small school games, these are the kids that kind of slip through the cracks for us, right? Some of them because they're smaller schools out in the west west end of the state. So, but Evan McCracken's kind of the big name, and then you get some of the Bell Vernon kids. Braden Lowe on Bell Vernon, I believe he was I think he had a huge game in that state championship game for Bell Vernon. You have some Westinghouse kids as well. Definitely I think the East is going to have their hands filled just because how tough these Pittsburgh area kids are going to be. So.
The UPMC sports medicine experts in Central PA are here to help keep you in the game and improve your quality of life, no matter your age or activity level. Visit upmc.com/Central PA SportsMed to learn more.
Yeah, and of course, two quarterbacks for the West squad. Hunter Homan from Grove City, All-State kid, and of course, Tyler Gee from Loyal Soccer had a really tremendous career there.
Yeah.
I read a lot of stuff from that neck of the woods, and Tyler Gee was sort of our Andrew Irby or our Alex Irby.
Yeah.
It seemed like we didn't have a headline without that name in it.
Yeah.
Gee was just spectacular. And Loyal Sock's been one of the most solid programs too. Even during the lean years, they always seem to bump off somebody they shouldn't.
Yeah.
It was one of those programs, man, that you always have to look forward to and see. So yeah, it should be an interesting battle. I mean, you tend to get a little bit more, how should I put this? It's a little more open. It's a little zanier. The East-West games tend to be a little bit more high scoring, I think, because the interiors are good, but they're not as deep. And obviously in games like these, you always showcase the offensive guys. I mean, that's what the rules are there for. And but it should be fun for us to at minimum to get to see the Steel High guys one more time.
Yeah.
On their way out. So let's flip over, Dan, to the big school guys. Again, we mentioned a lot of these guys were right on the cusp potentially being selected for the Big 33 game. We've had a few changes, a couple of promotions from this roster. But when we're talking big school, who are some of the guys that you want to? Let's start with the East roster first. In the large school, I guess they call it. We call it big school. They call it large school. But some of the guys that we're interested. Of course, we got a couple of Harrisburg guys on the list.
Yeah, we'll start locally, I guess. Just Ryan Epps is the guy that this year, one of the big questions, it was always going to be, how does this team replace Terrell Reynolds? And you're not going to replace Terrell Reynolds, and Ryan Epps isn't the same type of player as Terrell Reynolds. They're probably, frankly, not even the same position. He's much more of an interior pass rusher. But in terms of just getting to the quarterback and making opposing passers kind of freak out, Ryan Epps provided that this year. He had an awesome year for that team as a interior pass rusher. So cool to see him make it. And then Raytel Bryant, I've always thought is one of the more underrated guys on that Harrisburg defense the last couple of years. I think he's one of those kids where you kind of don't know what position to classify as him because he's such a versatile kid. He could play linebacker, he could play cornerback. He was also, I saw, a semifinalist for our Best and Brightest, where we honor all the top student athletes in the area, which is really cool to see. Just a really good kid, really huge part of that program for the past few years. So to see him get a shot at, he's listed at cornerback, which is, I imagine he's going to play safety or cornerback at the next level, just because if you're able to do that, why not use that versatility and you can always go down playing the box, but you can't. It's harder for linebackers to drop back. So those two, and then Aubrey Carter, another kid, Susquehanna Township. I've always thought is a heck of a football player. Susquehanna Township hasn't had these deep playoff runs where guys like that kind of get to really shine and kind of get us talking about them individually late in the year. But he's put together a heck of a career. And then we've got Lance Dean on the coaching staff, which is cool to see. We all know just how important Lance is locally to kind of developing players both at CD East and beyond. So glad to see Lance in there as well. So yeah, definitely a lot of local flavor. And then speaking of Lance, Ty Neal, another underrated kid who listed as an athlete. I think that's a good classification because just the guy you want to get the ball in his hands, and I think he's going to be a good player at the next level too. So good to see those kids get some chances.
Yeah, and of course we got a smattering of kids from MOTEP in this one. The big one to me is Mikael Davis, obviously a quarterback. He's a Service Academy kid and a guy that we talked a lot about during the season as sort of taking that next step as a complete quarterback. And the knock on him, a year or two ago was just, always more of a slasher running kind of quarterback, not a very passer. And I completely disagree with that. I think this kid has tremendous touch. He's got a good arm. Obviously, yeah, is he athletic? Absolutely. And he could tuck and run, and Imhotep did that.
But why people say that to try to ease into saying that they don't think they can pass, and I don't think that's true at all.
Yeah, no, I absolutely don't think that's true at all. I mean, when I got to see him play in person too, and I mentioned this every time I talk about him, is the poise that he showed. Mm-hmm. When you talk about he tucks and runs quick. You almost sort of set your mind to, okay, this is going to be just a kind of fly by the seat of their pants, offense. It's sort of have a playground kind of look. And, in years past, Imhotep had so many athletes that they could do that and be successful. He ran a really solid offense for the past couple of years. And I don't think he ever got the full credit they deserved. Obviously, he's moving on and going to play in college. Which is tremendous for him. And that sort of validation that, yes, he can throw. Yes, he can lead. And just the poise that he showed really, really impressed me, top to bottom in that kid. Another guy I want to see, we're obviously not going to get to see Stanford tight end Aiden Black. He bowed out. Jack Donnelly from Downingtown picked up his spot. I think it was probably about 2 months ago when that change came in. But Trey Tremba from Parkland is a guy that you want to watch. Tremendous 4-year guy. and just a tough son of a gun,
Yeah.
and with really good credentials. And but Justin Kalitsnik, the linebacker for Delaware Valley, is anybody who hasn't seen him is in for a real treat. He's been a tackling machine and smasher for the last 3 years. He's been on everyone's radar as being this tough, guy. And he doesn't just hit you; he drives you into the ground.
Yeah.
So and again, with these showcase events, they're always geared toward the offense, and I think linebackers most most of all in defense get overlooked because you're always looking at the first level guys, to get to the quarterback, and of course the cornerbacks in these types of games have the toughest assignment on defense out of any position, because it's geared toward the offense. So I always feel like the linebackers get kind of overshadowed. They're just kind of there,
Yeah.
and not really given the full credit that they're due. But Kalitsnik is a guy you're going to want to watch.
Yeah, and then the offensive line group is also really good. Forgive
Yeah,
me,
it is.
I don't think there's any promotions, but if there are, let me know. I mean, Sean Kinney's a kid. I just love the offensive line wrestlers, and he's been one of the best wrestlers in the state the last couple of years at heavyweight, which is always that's a little bit of a different type of wrestling than some of the lower weight classes. So you have to be pretty darn strong to be up there. Zafir Stewart, another Ematep kid, um, uh, really good. I forget where he's committed to. Is he Rutgers or Illinois or?
I think Illinois.
I think he's
Don't quote me on that.
I think he's Illinois, but wherever he's committed, yeah, he's an Illinois commit. I think he's a really good football player as well. And then Paul McClune, Twins Valley, Ryan Moses, Downington East, Jacob Alba, Delaware Valley, and Andrew Kerr. That's a heck of an offensive line for a non-Big 33 offensive line. You've got multiple Division I football players on that line. Yeah, it's going to be a good group. So, and yeah, that just isn't, again, this kind of goes to show the depth we have in PA right now, where when you consider all of the Big 33 team is already excluded from this list, and you think of all the people that didn't even want to play in the Big 33 or can't play in the Big 33, and you still come out with this is an East roster for the East-West game. Kind of tells you how deep the state is, even compared to maybe 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah, and that's one of the things too. I mean, obviously Pennsylvania's been selecting these teams. Obviously everything trickles down from the Big 33. I do think there might be tweaks they can make to the selection process, but it is a good process. And the biggest concern is that some of these players who obviously the schools are not dues paying members to the PSFCA don't get nominated, or and eventually are not evaluated for the Big 33 game, thus not being selected for East West too. Yeah. So I think there's something that needs to be tweaked. But without that, you mentioned just the absolute strong offensive line, all these strong players that are playing in the East West games, will just make it that much more difficult to select. So that's how difficult it is. So I understand when there's I get emails from media members, I get emails from parents and things like that. Why wasn't this kid selected? This kid, this and that. And let's verify first and foremost, you and I don't have a say in any of it. You know what I mean? We don't. Obviously, we pick our all-star teams at PennLive. I coordinate all state for us, but that's voted on by 80 plus members of the media around the state and things like that who nominate players. So we're responsible for that, and we have nothing to do with selection process in this. So I understand though when you see a kid maybe rush for 2,500 yards at a District 10 who doesn't get selected, and people gripe about the selection process, and I get that, I understand, but knowing what we know and how strong these East West rosters are, it's a tough gig to select these teams, and obviously there are intangibles and kids reporting earlier or enrolling earlier to their college of choice. injuries. Maybe they're playing a spring sport and get dinged up. Can't play. Last minute adjustments like Dorian Smith, obviously the running back for Susquehanna Township, got a boost up to big 33 for that. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of good in the selection process. Maybe there's a way to tweak it a little bit, but it's still a hard process to narrow these kids down. And these two East-West rosters, they're pretty impressive.
I mean, then you
They're
get
filled with all-state guys.
Yeah, I mean, you shift to the West, and you just go you look at the very top of the roster. You look at the two quarterbacks, and they're two of they might not be the quarterbacks you're going to be seeing playing on college game day at the next level, but these are gamers. Logan Kushner, North Allegheny, was absolutely sensational in the postseason. Made Harrisburg. He kind of diced Harrisburg up as a runner, as a quarterback, in a way that you don't really see too many quarterbacks do. Just a really impressive kid. And then Peyton Wayner at Central Catholic, who was kind of Kushner's big rival in throughout high school. And they played some big games. So that's pretty cool. And then I always do like that. I love the consistency here that Cumberland Valley and Mechanicsburg is on the west, while Harrisburg and Susquehanna Township is on the east.
Well, they are on different shores, Dan.
Yeah. So I guess
Susquehanna.
Yeah, I guess technically, I guess that's where it's like the Mason-Dixon line of Pennsylvania. There,
that's the split.
Yeah, Carlisle Pike is the Mason-Dixon line.
That's right. That's right.
Hey, I'm happy that we get it because it means we get to see Bryce Sterritz play some more football. He's had the Duquesne. He said to Duquesne, if there's ever been a Steel City type running back, it's Bryce Sterritz, right? I mean, he's not be playing for my Pitt Panthers, but playing right down the road for the Dukes. And I think if there's someone whose running style fits that Western PA attitude, it's Bryce Sterritz, who let's just say I don't think he necessarily worries about contact. I think he kind of embraces that as part of his game. It almost feels like it doesn't feel like I think it's pretty safe to say he'd rather run you over than make you miss. So
speaking of running people over, Alex Salve is also in
the
linebacker for Cumberland Valley.
I mean that was kind of what led them to their comeback, is they really just started embracing the physicality of that football team, and it's cool to see a couple of the kids on this squad. And Caden Pines as well, who also had a really good second half of the year. It was pretty much, I don't want to say their only wide receiving threat, but he was. If they needed to throw the ball, I think most people knew where it was going. It was going to Caden Pines, and then he was their clear number one corner. As that group really improved throughout the year. So some Cumberland Valley kids, and then also Justin Castro Dixon from State College, who I think you wrote something on this year. He's a heck of a football player as well. I really like this West team too. Again, it just speaks to, like, these kids aren't necessarily all the Division I talents, but they're some of the most fun kids we watched this past year, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I don't know if you mentioned, obviously Caden Pines being at cornerback's a good spot for him, but do you think he might return kicks or punts?
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised, especially with who's coaching the team. He might give him a shot, right?
I think Josh Oswald, who said he was the head coach of the West Side.
Well, that's what I always wonder with these coaches when you're kind of thrown in these situations. How do you even remember everyone's name? I kind of feel like Oswald might just be like, Caden, go return that punt or something like that. So
it's a little chaotic. I mean, we've been on the sidelines for these things.
Yeah,
they really don't. I mean, they've had a practice.
Yeah,
every weekend of practices already.
That's why you have numbers on the back of the jerseys, right?
Exactly. Number 14, get out there and return this punt. Yeah, you mentioned Kushner too. He's so much fun to watch. Another guy I'm really looking forward to seeing is Tucker Teets, running back.
Oh yeah,
Grove. Just a tremendous 4-year guy too.
Another really good running back crew too, with Jaquan Reynolds there as well from Gateway.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So there's a lot to absorb here on Sunday the 19th. Hope everybody goes out. Tickets are not that expensive, so go out and support these guys one last time. It'll be 2 fun games. I mean, the small school game always seems to come down to it. And then the big school game, it's fun to watch who's sort of getting the advantage in the tug of war.
Yeah.
And then Hallberg could break loose
Yeah.
at any moment with those guys. But yeah, the Harrisburg guys are in. Obviously, big school. You got Cumberland Valley represented, State College represented well, and of course the Steel High guys in the small school is really cool to see 6 guys line it up one more time for the defending. Well, 2-time defending,
and that won't be the last Steel High recognition, because I guess to transition to our last thing we're going to talk about is we're going to be honoring a couple of them on next this coming Wednesday.
Yep.
Turns out when you win a third state title, you get a lot of the postseason awards from PennLive.
Really?
So for those listening, our 8th annual high school sports awards are May 22nd. We're giving out Player of the Year awards for every sport, including the spring sports, which is always a little bit of a challenge, kind of picking the winners before they happen.
We have to kind of make our decision a few weeks before the end of the sport. So
yeah,
that is a challenge for us. But
we're giving out the football stuff too, and no surprise that Alex Irby is our offensive football player of the year that we named earlier. I think it's pretty hard to argue when you're passing literally every quarterback that's ever played football in the state of Pennsylvania. It'd be kind of funny to go, actually, we're going to go someone else for our offensive player of the year. So he's our offensive player of the year. And then defensive player of the year, there were a lot of really good candidates this past year. And we kind of just end up going with Rel Caesar because he had a ton of interceptions. And frankly, we kind of wanted a way to recognize the incredible season Rel Caesar had, because he just as much could have been an offensive player of the year candidate with, I think he had like 2,000 receiving yards. I don't know if he had double-digit interceptions, but he must have had close to it. So he was our defensive player of the year as well. So got to be honoring both those kids for their, these are technically just yearly awards, but I think we can kind of say that they're also kind of lifetime achievement awards for these kids as well, because they've been such good football players the last few years for Steel. Especially Rel, who, just has consistently improved each and every year, kind of going from that guy who was backing up, whether it's, guys like Mekhi Flowers or, I'm blanking on, why am I blanking on their number one wide receiver 2 years ago when they didn't, but he kind of emerged last year as their number one guy on both sides. And this year had definitely the best year of his career. So, glad to honor both of them, as well as all the other kids. It's always an awesome event. You get to see these kids kind of in a different environment, honoring them for the big years they had. And we have some pretty good guests coming in. We've got former NFL offensive lineman Ross Tucker, District 3 legend Ross Tucker.
Yeah.
He will be emceeing the event. He's obviously a big time podcaster.
Why missing grad?
Yeah, big former teammate of Tom Brady. Got to throw that in there as a Patriots fan.
That's
so
right.
I might be asking him a few questions. And then our speaker for Penn State fans is a big name, Christian Hackenberg, former all-world prospect. I think he'll have some interesting perspective, because he's a guy whose career probably didn't go exactly the way anyone wanted, but nonetheless has probably experienced more in football and frankly life, just with how much kind of pressure he had to deal with being that number one recruit in the country. And I'm sure he's going to have some really cool stuff to say. So it should be an awesome event on Wednesday.
No doubt. All right, Dan, that'll do it for us here at the PA High School Football Report. Of course, check back with us for our next edition coming up. I think we're going to welcome in our colleague here, Brian Linder, soon, and hammer out another one of these East-West All-Star games Sunday, May 19th, noon and 5 o'clock. And, of course, Big 33 coming up May 26th. All 3 games are at Chapman Field at Cumberland Valley High School. So if you want to see a little bit of spring football, there's your chance to do it. All right, Dan, I appreciate your time, buddy. We'll talk again.
The UPMC sports medicine experts in Central PA are here to help keep you in the game and improve your quality of life, no matter your age or activity level. Visit upmc.com/Central PA SportsMed to learn more.